And I do swear by the day of judgment, an oath of absolute seriousness, and I swear by the self-reproaching soul, an oath of something in pain. And do people think that we cannot reassemble their bones? No, indeed, we are most capable of restoring even their very fingertips. Every fingertip, every little piece of flesh. Do people still want to deny what is yet to come? They ask mockingly, when is this day of judgment? We say, do you really want us to tell you when the day of judgment will take place? It's none of your business. You just need to know that the day of judgment is coming. Do not preoccupy yourselves with when the day of judgment will happen. It's not important for you to know when. Just know that the day of judgment is definitely going to come. But when the sight becomes stunned, the power of seeing is gone. And the moon is dimmed, meaning the light of the moon is gone, and the sun and the moon are brought together. A complete darkness is set to take place. At this point, one will cry out, where is the escape? When they do unsee the sun or the moon anymore, and they do not know where they are, they'll ask, where is the escape? What's going on? Where is this darkness coming from? Why is everything black? What happened to the moon? What happened to the sun? But no, there will be no escape on that day. All will be brought before the presence of your Lord, and all will be gathered before Allah Almighty. And then all will be informed of what they have sent forth and left behind. They will be shown the good deeds they did and the bad deeds they did, and they will be told, this is what you used to send forth, and this is what you used to leave behind. But in spite of that, people will testify against their own souls. People will not be able to defend themselves. In spite of the excuses they come up with, their own souls will testify against them. Oh, how powerful is the human soul. Oh, humanity, do not rush your tongue trying to memorize the Quran. The course of your lives is not determined by memorizing the Quran. Certainly, it is upon us to make you memorize and recite it. Once we have recited a revelation through Gabriel, peace be upon him, follow its recitation closely. Once you've heard a verse, recite it after me so that you memorize it, and it is certainly upon us to make it clear to you. But no. In fact, you love this fleeting world and neglect the hereafter. This world is but a means to an end. The real success, the real happiness, the real failure and punishment is in the hereafter. Yet people love this world more than the hereafter. They do everything possible to satisfy the desires of this world, and they forget about the hereafter. So on that day, some faces will be bright, looking at their Lord. Some faces will be bright because they will see their Lord, the face of Allah Almighty. And other faces will be gloomy, anticipating something devastating to befall them. On that day, some will be happy because they're going to see Allah Almighty. Others will be extremely sad because they know what they did in their lives, and they know they re-gone. Receive the punishment. But no, beware of the day when the soul reaches the collarbone as it leaves the body. The soul, when it reaches the collarbone, it's like someone grabbing your shirt and saying you cannot live anymore. Your time has come to an end. You must die. And it will be said, is there any healer who can save this life? That is to say, is there any way to get out of death? Is there anything I can do to avoid this punishment? Is there any charity I can give to avoid what's coming to me? Is there any prayer I can perform right now to change what's going to happen to me? But no, there is no way to go back. And then their feet are tied together in a shroud, indicating that the person has died. On that day, they will be driven to your Lord alone, meaning each person will be held accountable for his or her own deeds alone. Some people might think, well, my parents did such and such. I'm sure Allah will forgive me because my father was a great man. My mother was a great woman. Look what they did for the community. Look what they did for Islam. On the day of resurrection, everyone will be held accountable for his or her own deeds. Each individual will be held accountable for what he or she did. Nobody else will be held accountable on your behalf. And no one else's deeds will be credited to you. Even if your father was a great scholar and did lots of good things, you won't be forgiven because of that, because you didn't do those things. Or if your mother was a great worshiper, you won't be forgiven because of that, because you didn't do those deeds. Each individual will be held accountable for his or her own deeds alone. On that day, every person will be held accountable for his or her own deeds alone. So if you want your children to enter paradise, teach them how to worship Allah. Teach them to fear Allah. If you want your parents to enter paradise, Teach them how to worship Allah. If you want your relatives, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, your boss, anyone you know to enter paradise, teach them how to worship Allah. Teach them to fear Allah. But let's not fool ourselves. How can we teach others when we ourselves need guidance? We ourselves are lost. We ourselves need to be taught. We ourselves need a teacher. We ourselves need to seek guidance. How can I teach others when I myself am still learning? How can I show others the path when I myself am still walking and I don't know where I am going? So first seek the guidance yourself. First become a good student yourself. First learn how to worship Allah yourself. First learn how to fear Allah yourself. Once you've learned something and you've been practicing it yourself, then you can teach others. But if you don't practice what you're teaching, you're not a teacher. You're a hypocrite. So brothers and sisters, Allah Almighty wants us to know that He is the only one who has knowledge of everything. He knows our past, our present, and our future. He knows what's happening around us, and He knows what's happening inside of us. Nothing is hidden from Allah Almighty. So brothers and sisters, let's remember the words of Allah and ponder over them deeply. Let's remind ourselves of the words of Allah often. And let's remind other people of the words of Allah. Let's spread the words of Allah. Let's live according to the words of Allah. This denier neither believed nor prayed, but persisted in denial and turned away. Then they went to their own people walking boastfully. Woe to you and more woe to you. Again woe to you and even more woe to you. Do people think they will be left without purpose? They think, I am only living for myself, and no one will call me to account for what I earned. Wrong, wrong, wrong. A person will be called to account for every single thing they earned. No, you don't understand. You were created for a purpose. You're not just created for the sake of creation. You were created for a purpose. You're a means to an end. You are not the end in yourself. You're a means to an end. And the end is to worship God. That's why everything that you do, everything that you say, everything that you think will be judged. Because everything that we do, say, or think is either an act of worship or an act of disobedience. There's nothing in between. Either you are worshiping God or you are disobeying God. There is nothing in between, so everything will be judged according to that. The first thing that they will be called to account for is their disbelief. They turned away from the truth when they saw it. They turned away from the light when they saw it. Instead, they chose darkness. They chose their own destruction, and so they will be held accountable for that. And then they went to their own people, walking boastfully. What did they see that made them so proud? What made them so arrogant? It was their disbelief. It was their sin. It was their disobedience. They saw all of that, and they were proud. They were boasting. And that itself is another sin. It is an indication that a person has gone astray. When a person becomes boastful, when a person becomes arrogant, it is an indication that they have gone far, far away from the path of righteousness. So people think that they can just go on living however they want. They can live however they want and get away with it. They can shirk their responsibilities and get away with it. They can be unjust to others and get away with it. They can be proud and arrogant and get away with it. They can be boastful and get away with it. No, a person cannot get away with it. Everything will be called to account. Every single thing. People think that just because they don't see the punishment right away, it means that there is no punishment. No, you don't understand. The punishment is coming. It may not be coming in this world, but it is definitely coming in the hereafter. They say we used to be a sperm drop. Then Allah perfected our creation. He created us from a clinging clot, then brought us out as a fully formed baby. Can't He then resurrect us when we die? Of course He can. If you really believe that, if you really think that, then put your trust in Allah. Have faith in Allah. Don't associate partners with Allah. Don't worship other than Allah. And don't be ungrateful towards Allah.